you know, our MC has introduced Mr. Proctor formally, and you can Google and know that he's a big guy in our business, and he's an Indophile, and he's been coming to India for a while. But I'll tell you one, I was remembering him last week in Hanoi, and you know, I told him when he walked in that I was remembering him. You know, he's a man of commitment. It's an honor really to host him today at the Exchange for Media Conclave. Uh, 2 years back, he was the keynote speaker at the conclave, and that was one day after. It was 15 July. On 14 July or 13 July, I'm not sure, there were Mumbai blasts, and he was at the airport. He had the choice of going back home, and you know, we would have understood because really families do get anxious. His wife was very anxious, his family was very anxious, and I have to tell you that he kept his commitment of coming here and delivered a fantastic keynote at the Exchange for Media Conclave. And the reason I was thinking this is that the Ad Asia Hanoi, which was good for various other reasons than content. If people like me were speaking there, obviously it was not a good conference, right? But the fact is, Howard Draft was speaking there, and I was told he didn't show up because he was worried about the cyclone. I mean, there were 120 Indians. I'm sure they were also worried about the cyclone. So, you know, really, I remembered him because he kept his commitment, and I gave that example to someone.
I don't think my wife cared at all, actually. I think my wife just took out some further life insurance and told me to get on the plane.
Yeah, thank you, Dominic. So, Dominic, I'm going to take you up. So this is an interactive session, no speeches, just before dinner, and we have somebody like Dominic who really understands this domain. At the 2011 Exchange for Media Conclave, you said that one of the things that media agencies will have to do is to repurpose and retrain the talent pool. Has that happened in the last 2 years?
No, I would say not enough, to be honest. I think it's a really major issue that faces the media agency business to repurpose the talent pool, as you put it. I don't remember that quote, but I'm sure it was accurate then, and I think it probably still is now. I mean, I've been in the conference for just half of the day, but the speeches I've heard have all been about transformation, and you can't transform a business without transforming the talent that runs the business. So I don't think we've done a good enough job. No, I don't think so.
And why has that not happened, and why and how will it happen in the future? I know that in your company, a lot of senior management globally is Indian. I mean, you take Vikram, you take a lot of other senior managers. But why do you think that transition is not happening? When Paul Polman was here, ISA hosted him, and we were partnered ISA. He talked about how he prides on Indian management. Yeah. So can India solve the problem for your group?
To some extent, I think India can. I remember getting into trouble 2 years ago with you when we had a similar conversation because I made the point that, in my opinion, the Indian market should be leading change, and I don't think there's enough thought leadership coming out of India compared to the scale of India and the intelligence of the business here. So I think there's still a very valid challenge to lay down and say, look, I mean, I think when you look at the new world and the new world order, I don't think enough thought leadership in general in marketing is coming from this part of the world. I think India is still largely following rather than leading, and I'm sorry if that sounds rude, but that's my view.
Okay. You know, what do you think, in your view, Mr. Proctor, is the one big development that has impacted our business or is likely to impact our business that happened in 2013 and definitely impacted your own business, or is something that you look at? And if you don't give the answer I'm looking at, then I'll prompt you.
Yeah, you'll tell me anyway, probably. Well, no, I think it's still the kind of onward march of digital media, I think, wherever you are in the world. I mean, India is perhaps slightly further down the curve than it should be in terms of digital penetration and usage, but nevertheless it's growing quickly and will continue to, I'm sure. So I think probably there's not actually one incident in 2013 that I would refer to, but I would just refer to the general overwhelming developments in digital media as the primary change of marketing.
I was more referring to a three-letter word called POG. I think that's been a big, and when Sir Martin was here, of course, he did talk about it at our Delhi conclave. And recently at their Miami conference, they're trying to make sure that the Publicis group of media agencies and the Omnicom group of media agencies work together.
Yeah.
Does it really in some way impact your business?
Oh, yeah.
Are you really looking at, how are you looking at countering that?
Sure. No, I think well, first of all, I think it's very good for our business. It's a threat, clearly, but it's very good in the sense that I think further consolidation is a pretty good thing in a service company environment. So if you just look at the RECMA numbers, now we know that they're not totally accurate, right? But the RECMA data would say that between GroupM and POG, or POG, as my boss insists on calling it, will be over 60% of the market. And that should, going back to your previous question, that should allow us actually to work in a more regulated market where we can put more investment capital back into the kind of human capital rather than a very fragmented market where it's more difficult to make profit, and therefore it's more difficult to invest. So I think, POG, yes, it was a huge announcement, took us completely by surprise, I must say. I mean, we're assuming, I might be completely wrong on this, there's some people in the room from Publicis and Omnicom who might, care to chip in, but we're assuming that the primary valid reason to do that merger is in the area of media.
Sure.
Because media,
absolutely,
in our opinion, is the only part of marketing
There's
services.
one more reason why they did it, just to piss off Sir Martin.
Well, that's always good fun. I mean, I spend my life trying to do that, but it's quite an expensive way of doing it, isn't it? But so I think we do think that media investment management, which is what we call it, is probably the primary reason why POG is doing POG. I can't think why they would do it otherwise. So we do expect a significant change in the market.
And the reason I say that, and I'm not patronizing your group, but clearly in India and in Asia Pacific, you are so ahead. You're a leader, so you have more to lose, so to say, if at all. I'm not saying you're going to,
well, I think
but as a leader, you have such a big market share.
Sure. No, we've got more to lose, but the industry's got more to gain. I mean, I do think that a properly regulated, when I say regulated, I mean in terms of its market structure, business in media investment management is a good thing for the business. I think it's a very good thing for the business.
Are you going to preempt them by making a big acquisition in India? Are you going to make sure that
no,
you
I had a
make
word
more
with
media?
Sam. I mean, Sam is far too.
He's already sold it to GroupM. So why would he sell it for the second time?
He hasn't
Jokes apart, are you looking at blocking some acquisitions that they are?
No, well, yes, not major acquisitions in terms of scale. We're looking to make small, largely strategic acquisitions around the areas of digital, of ROI, of sports marketing, of content, of the way our business is, generally speaking, getting much broader. That will be helped by acquiring small specialist companies in those areas, but not a big volume play.
Also, you've been coming to India for many years. You've nurtured the talent here. You've grown the business. You worked with Irwin. You worked with Sir Martin. What's your impression of India now? How have things changed in the last 2-3 years, 5 years? What are the things that have changed for better? I mean, some interesting anecdotes about India that really, when you talk in your boardroom.
Well, I would say that my observation would be that India has become much more confident as a business nation. I think that's the good thing. I think the challenge, as I said 10 minutes ago, is to take that position of strength and to really build on it and become, a world leader in marketing thinking. And I think I keep saying this, but I think it's true. I think that is a big challenge and a huge opportunity for India.
In the past, you've talked a lot about client trust. And, companies like Facebook, Google, they take their digital offerings and they go to clients. And I'm not making an assumption, but sometimes the clients listen more to them than to their media agency. How, as a leading media agency group, you're dealing with making sure that in those areas, I know WPP and the organization that you had has made significant investments in digital.
Yeah.
But how is it working in terms of getting more client trust, especially from a knowledge standpoint?
Well, look, I think this is true of any service business, to be honest, not just ours. But I think, if a client can do something better than we can, then why wouldn't they do it themselves? So the challenge for any service company, particularly an agency, is to be more intelligent than the people within the client. And the way you become more intelligent is to work across a vast array of different clients where you pick up knowledge from the much broader market and apply it to a specific client problem. So look, I just think it's very clear. I think in any service company, if you're not more intelligent about what you do than your client is, then you don't have a business.
So are you saying the clients are more ahead of the curve on knowledge?
No, I'm saying no. What's happened in the specific examples you just quoted was that those companies, Twitter, Facebook, Google, very, very quickly became very, very sexy, and it became almost like a kind of badge of honor within a lot of boardrooms around the world for the chief executive or the chief marketing officer to have personal relationships at the top of the vendors, and also to have an accelerated investment in those companies. I think that's probably a temporary thing there.
Okay. There's a certain large FMCG company which a couple of years back called for a pitch and asked agencies to give a pitch fee. Yeah, right? I believe their global pitch is on. And, in that context, what do you have to say about clients that pitch too often? Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Or
Well, it's up to them. I think what I would have to say is I would have to say no from time to time. And we do. And I'm quite, strangely, this might sound a bit strange to some people, but I'm quite proud of the fact that in the last 6 months, we have walked away from 3 global pitches from top 50 advertisers because the business would not have allowed us to make any sort of reasonable profit to reinvest in our business. So I think going back to your question about POG, by the way, I think that will help as well, because I think I think and I hope that clients will be less inclined to pitch every year.
And I know you don't have, none of us have an answer to that, but just as a scenario building, do you think the number 2, if I may call it, the erstwhile number 2 network, would you look at buying that, or, let me take names, I'm talking of, say, IPG. Do you think a group like IPG is more vulnerable or more attractive, whichever way you want to look at it?
Well, to be honest, none of us saw the Publicis Omnicom thing coming down the track, so I can't claim to know exactly what's happening.
Yeah, I said
into public either, but I do think, it seems logical, doesn't it, from the outside looking in, that there might be some activity between Dentsu or Havas or Interpublic or some of the companies that are rather marginalized in the media world compared to GroupM and the future POG.
Fantastic. Also, as you know, technology is changing the way your business is happening, and trading and optimization has become very big. So do you think going forward, the media agency of the future is going to have lesser people and more?
Yes, it'll be certainly more automated, of course. It already is more automated than it was 6 months ago or a year ago. That's clear, and that's progress. What I would challenge, though, is your assertion that there'll be fewer people overall, because I think as media agencies continue to mature and the market continues to mature, then I think a lot more strategic activity will take place in those agencies. So I think it goes back to your question from 20 minutes ago. I think it relies on us, therefore, to repurpose our talent pool rather than simply to shrink it.
As you have a global responsibility, and when you talk of advertising, marketing, media, you can't wish away China, right? Now, when you compare, and I know China is very different, it's not a democracy like us. We haven't banned large internet companies globally not to come to India. So maybe we'll not make trillionaires in India like the Chinese economy. But what are the comparisons? What are the some things that you compare when you talk of India versus China, China versus India? Are there some commonalities between these two markets?
Well, there are obviously in terms of the scale and the growth opportunity. But I think it's always amusing to me that the Indian market seems to be obsessed with comparing itself with China. I always get those questions, and it seems odd.
We love Chinese food, so you love the Indian food.
I do. No, I love the Indian food, and in fact, I can't believe it's 9:30 and I haven't had any today. But there you go. So we spend a lot of time in China as well, and I think probably what's
You did your annual conference this year in China.
we did in
WPP.
September. Yes, that's right. Yeah, and one thing we noticed, we spoke to a lot of entrepreneurs who came to visit our conference, was the extraordinary innovation that's going on in that market, whether that's marketing innovation or product innovation. I mean, far more than here, I would say. And, you know, the old cliche in the West, as Vikram referred to it, was that the Chinese were great at sort of ripping things off and copying good ideas. That's now the reverse. And some of the best innovations we've seen in technology, particularly, are coming from the Chinese market. It's extraordinary.
So I think the next conclave we should do in Beijing or Shanghai and not in India. I can keep on asking questions to him, but let's take 3-4 questions, and please tell us who you are and keep your questions really short. It's like
I think everyone wants to go to the bar.
everybody wants to go for
I
dinner.
certainly
And
do.
they're pretty, that you've given them a lot. So I'll ask you my 2 questions that I saved. You know, 2 days from now there is Choreos, and we talked about Indian talent. Now, internal recognition or external recognition is always welcome. Now, when you're doing Choreos, really, you keep talking about digital, and you know, clients are not just digital; they're spending 5% of money. But really, domains that are still young, where there is excellence happening, when it comes to internal recognitions like Choreos, do you tend to look at that? Because really, there's very little benchmarking available there.
No, I think, no, that's a good point. I mean, these, for those that don't know, that award ceremony you refer to as internal awards for GroupM agencies, and we do think it's an awfully important thing to do, is to put some, you know, value add back into the population that work for us, because you know, working in an agency shouldn't be just like any other job, you know, really, to be honest. It shouldn't be. It should be special, and I think one way of making it special and recognized is to have, you know, internal awards where we really, and it's not just for, by the way, it's not just, we don't just give awards for, you know, the best digital media plan or whatever. You get awards as well for being the best, you know, finance guy or IT guy or whatever it might be.
Sure.
So it's a much broader thing than.
So how, when you talk of Choreos, and I'm talking recognition, because your clients have a large stake in making you successful and you have a large stake, how do you involve your clients in a Choreos kind of initiative? How much do you put the onus onto your, you know, recognition to your
Well,
clients?
it's a good question. I mean, I think, funny enough, that one, the answer to that depends on which country in the world you're in. A lot of countries really involve clients an awful lot into the, you know, into the depths of our business, and other countries tend to keep the clients more at sort of kind of arm's length, if you like. But look, I mean, we're a service company. We have nothing if we haven't got clients, and so we do tend absolutely to keep our clients very, very involved. And for most clients, they're very interested in what we do anyway.
Sure,
absolutely.
absolutely.
I mean, you know, actually, when you think about it, for most clients, the interesting part, the interesting 10% of their job is working with agencies rather than visiting factories. So I think they do enjoy being involved, and the best ones show a, you know, huge level of interest in what we do and how we do it.
What is your advice? What is your advice to young people in this room in terms of communication business, media planning, buying, and entrepreneurship opportunities in this domain?
I'm relentlessly optimistic about this. I think that the business that we're in is fantastic and will get better. I think it has a huge importance to the general economy, has a massive importance to our clients, and unless we screw it up, which we could do, I think that importance will only increase, and that media investment management agencies will become even further up the kind of value hierarchy than they currently are. And I think that's a massive, massive opportunity for any youngster. I mean, I spent half of my life encouraging sons and daughters of friends and neighbors to get into this business. I think it's a great business.
Nawal, you have a question.
Hi. Hi, Dominic. This is Nawal Ahuja from Exchange Media. I have a small question from you know, where Vikram left about digital being an ecosystem. Obviously, the Western markets are much more evolved in terms of, you know, where digital is today and the kind of advertising spends going in there. From the sort of projections you do internally and the work that you do with clients in India, how long do you think the Indian market will get to a stage where, say, a quarter of the entire advertising spend is going into digital? 4 years, 5, 7, 8, 9.
Yeah.
And an add-on to that, do Do you think it will come at the expense of some other media, or digital will add so much to the entire spend pie?
Well, our overall view of that is that digital is driving an overall growth in the marketing, in the media market. So it's not just at the expense of other media. There is an incremental, value in the growth of digital. In some countries of the world, it already is 25% or more of the media market. There's no reason why that couldn't be the case in India. I mean, to your specific question about India, I think the really interesting thing about India, digital, is the way, because of the structure of the economy here, you kind of leapfrogged straight into mobile, where if I'm right, I think I'm right in saying that more than half of access to the internet here is via mobile devices. And that would be, you know, going back to link up my previous point, that would be an area which I think, because India is leading in that market, that you could teach the world an awful lot about how to use mobile marketing. Because, you know, I mean, I wish I had $1 for every year someone said to me, this is going to be the year of mobile, you know, and it never has been. Because partly we haven't learned enough from markets where mobile applications are as important as they are in India. So I would say it's a huge opportunity here.
You know, Dominic, I'm going to wrap it up and I'm going to ask you, what is a favorite company of yours which is not your client, whom you would like to have as a client, or a company that you really admire?
Okay. Well, we have a lot of clients. A lot of them are clients, actually.
Not somebody who's not your client. I mean, I'm sure you admire all your clients.
I'll probably have to settle for Aston Martin then. I'll tell you what, this is not one of our clients. Why don't you take me to the bar now and buy me a Kingfisher beer? Because I think I like a Kingfisher beer.
Thank you. And my last, any movie or
How many
song?
last questions can you have?
Yes,
You've had about 7 last
because you're not, any,
It's almost breakfast time.
I'm trying to save the bar money.
What?
It's been a tough year for media companies in India.
Yeah.
I'm trying to save some money. You know, last question, genuinely. One movie or song that you listened to recently that you'd like to recommend to the audience. I'm not going to ask you about a book or a website, or a movie or a song that you liked or listened to.
Do you want to sing a song?
I mean, anyway, I'm mostly invited to do a session when they want people to leave. Say, I'm going to sing, and people automatically leave.
The most inspiring piece of content, it's not a song and it's not a movie, that I've seen in the last week or two, probably was Tendulkar's leaving speech.
Fantastic. I mean, I think you touched the chord with everyone here. And that's why Dominic Proctor is Dominic Proctor. I'd like you to give him a big round of applause and a standing ovation for building a fantastic business in India. Thank you, Dominic.